Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing well because today we're talking about one directed by Rennie Harlin, Deep Blue Sea, an absolute banger in this genre. Deep Blue Sea, if you don't know, is one of the best shark movies ever made, and I will argue this to the death. The general reception to this movie is mostly mixed, but I'm here to tell you that critics are wrong and that this movie is great. Now, I am going to dive into full spoilers. I have to. The movie came out back in '99, so if you wanted to see it, I think you've had enough time to see it. But I have to talk about some things that happen in this movie to explain why it's so great. I won't be spoiling everything though, so there will be some surprises still if you want to watch it yourself, but let's just dive in Deep Blue Sea. The basic premise behind this movie is that there's a group of scientists trying to cure Alzheimer's disease, and they believe the cure is within these sharks, and how at the time with the science they believed that sharks couldn't get cancer, which isn't actually true. But that's what the filmmakers thought. I mean, not just that, they took creative liberties with all sorts of things that sharks can do in this movie, like swimming backwards. The scientists, they believe the cure for Alzheimer's disease lies within their genes, and so they experiment on these sharks to try and get the cure. However, a side effect of experimenting on sharks, they get smarter, bigger, leaner, faster. So the sharks being experimented on, they break loose, they fight back, they hunt them down and destroy the facility that they're in the process. So critics are kind of mixed on this, but if you're a shark movie fan, like I am, you know that this one is a gem. All the way back in '99, this crew of filmmakers set out to make a film that didn't just kind of break the mold of shark movies, but break the mold and some of the tropes that horror movies of the '90s fell into. This is how you correctly subvert expectations, because anything that you think's gonna happen just doesn't happen in this movie. So I'm gonna lightly run through the things that happen in this movie. And the movie opens with a sequence with teens on this boat, very reminiscent of the opening scene of Jaws, but just different enough that it differentiates itself. And so, well, it seems obvious. These are the teens that are gonna get picked off, which will spark the events of the rest of the movie. They will be the first, and it will be explained later. But no, just as the shark is about to attack them, the shark gets harpooned. They're saved. No one dies in the opening. It lets you know right out of the gate that this ain't your normal shark movie. And yes, I am using clips from the movie. Yes, this video will get claimed and demonetized for it. Do I care? I don't care. This one's not about making money. This is about getting the word out about how good this movie actually is. I'm getting this video out, not just for you who already knows that this movie is good, but to get to the other people that don't even know about this movie. So if you haven't, please consider subscribing or liking this video so we can get it out there. Shortly after the attack, we're introduced to Susan, and we're also introduced to Russell, played by Samuel L. Jackson. Susan's the leading scientist who really believes that this can be done and convinces Samuel L. Jackson to come with. I'm just gonna call him by his name. But she convinces him to come and see what they're actually doing since he's funding everything. So they arrive at this facility, and I need to give some love to the sharks. The animatronic sharks in this movie are fantastic. Look at that! That looks real! The animatronics look that good. Walt Conti is the man responsible for this. He spent 8 months working on these to getting them to look exactly how they look. He did way more work than you ever would have needed to do. Like, no one is going to notice this level of work, except me. I noticed it. They fully mimic the multifaceted jaw of a shark. Like, a shark's jaw actually floats in their mouth. And to have that level of detail, I have to applaud it, alright? I see it. A fun little note, the license plate that's found in that shark's mouth is the exact same one as the one in Jaws. I mean, the numbers anyway. It's very self-aware, and I can't believe I've gotten this far in already, and I haven't mentioned it, but this movie, acknowledging things like that, it's not to be taken 100% seriously, and I think that's where a lot of critics went wrong with this movie, is they watched it thinking this is to be the successor to Jaws. Is this the next great horror movie with sharks? No. They knew that Jaws can't be topped, so they just did something completely different. This is a comedy for me as much as it is a horror film. Like, all the deaths are taken seriously, it's not making fun of itself, but the amount of levity that's actually in there, and the self-awareness that, you know, these are genetically altered sharks that can think and recognize guns and make plans. Like, they know. And so they just have fun with it, and the movie is just fun, start to finish. The movie's not meant to be taken entirely seriously, and that's the mistake that critics made. Like, they're looking at, oh yeah, the movie is taking itself pretty seriously, because all the deaths are taken seriously, but then you have rapper LL Cool J talking to a foul-mouthed parrot.
You know what, Bird? You were trying my last nerve. Don't make me drown your feathery ass.
From here, they set up Samuel L. Jackson's character, Russell, to be the hero of the film. Not only because it's Samuel L. Jackson and he's probably the highest billed actor on this movie, but because he has an enriched backstory where he survived an avalanche prior that they dove into earlier, giving the audience the idea that, okay, he's not a scientist like the rest of them. He has dealt with and survived a life-threatening experience before. Surely he's going to get out of this. There's not much point to me bringing this up, but Stellan Skarsgård's introduction to this film, I just love it. I've just always found it hilarious.
There's Dr. Jim Whitlock, the most brilliant man ever.
He's pissing into the wind. How brilliant can he be?
So they're messing with these sharks, and what I like is that they don't actually focus on the sharks. They're not the focal point of this movie. They really are trying to get this cure and make the focus on that for like the first third. And it's a lot of technical jargon that's nonsense, but I still am pretty interested and invested in just that alone. It's very charming and it's very entertaining. And then in a matter of minutes, Skarsgård loses his arm. He's going to get airlifted out by a chopper. The chopper picks him up, but then they fail and drop him back in. The shark gets a hold of Skarsgård, yanks him around, pulling the tether through the base, blowing up the top of it so they can't communicate with anyone, plus the helicopter blows up. Then the shark throws Skarsgård into the glass and completely destroys the facility that they're in, or flooding the big main room at least, in a matter of minutes. It's crazy. So yeah, the biggest shark, that's right, biggest shark, there's more than one. They're all mako sharks, which is quite interesting. It really broke the mold of it just being great white sharks all the time. And I think they chose makos because of the teeth. Yeah, I mean, you look up photos of mako sharks and they look vicious. But there's two male sharks that are 26 feet, because they had to up Spielberg by 1 foot. Because Bruce in Jaws is around 25 feet, so 26 feet. He had to. And then there's a female that is a ridiculous 45 feet. Like, this thing is huge. Look at the scale of it. So their main room is flooded, and these characters from now on get pushed through room after room, up floors, down floors, in an effort to try and get out. Meanwhile, rapper LL Cool J is in his kitchen, he was cooking, he was doing what he does best, and then all of a sudden he's in a sticky situation with a shark. The shark eats his bird, LL Cool J swims for the oven, a place to hide. The shark locks him in the oven, turns on the oven. The irony of the chef being cooked inside of his own oven is incredible.
So I appreciate the irony, Lord. Cooked us in his own oven.
But he decides, no, I'm not having it, hacks his way out into the top oven, jumps over the shark, gets out, and then hits him with a fat one-liner.
You ate my bird.
He didn't die! LL Cool J survived! And he even killed one of the sharks! He survives, breaking the trope of the black guy dying. It's amazing, but on the other side of the complex, the team is falling apart, alright? They want to get out of here, they're freaking out, but then Sam, or Russell, pulls them together with one of the best speeches I've ever seen in a shark movie. One of the best scenes I've seen in film, period.
You think water's fast? You should see ice. It moves like it has a mind. Like it knows it killed the world once. It got a taste for murder. When the avalanche came, it took us a week to climb out. And somewhere, we lost hope. Now, I don't know exactly when we turned on each other. I just know that 7 of us survived the slide, and only 5 made it out. Now, we took an oath that I'm breaking now. Swore that we said was the snow that killed the other 2. But it wasn't. Nature can be lethal, but it doesn't hold a candle to man. Now, you've seen how bad things can get and how quick they can get that way. Well, they can get a whole lot worse. So we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to pull together and we're going to find a way to get out of here. First, we're going to seal off this.
Holy hell, what? They kill him? I know, right? I've watched this movie since I was a kid. I knew the surprise, but you might not have. And I think it's brilliant. If Sam Jackson dies, the guy you thought was the protagonist, the hero, the highest billed actor, they couldn't kill Sam Jackson, dies like that. You feel on edge for everybody else. Everybody could die by the end of this movie, and so suddenly you feel no security with this movie, especially if you haven't seen it before. And it's great, especially for a shark movie when we're saturated with this genre. You know that the protagonist is not going to die at all, or if they do, it's at the very end, so anytime you see the shark, it's not really a big deal. Here, yeah, anyone can die. From here, it's just fast-paced fun. I mean, they try to get to the elevator shaft, you get a beautiful set piece there where above them, the shaft is completely burning because of the helicopter crash and the explosion that happened earlier. But you've got the entire facility flooding underneath, so you've got water underneath, fire above, attacking from both sides. They really squeeze these characters. So this is where I won't spoil anything. Sooner or later, some more characters get picked off, another shark ends up biting the dust, and eventually it comes down to 3, which is Susan, the main scientist, LL Cool J is still alive, and Carter Blake. He's got Blake in his name, alright. It means he's a Chad. So it kind of becomes obvious to the audience now, right? Like, the 3 of them are gonna get up and get out, and then LL Cool J is probably gonna die because they need someone to sacrifice themselves and let the 2 leads live and maybe have a romantic kiss or some bullshit like in the original script. But that's not what we got here. LL Cool J gets attacked, but he survives. This man will not die, and I love it! But before I talk about the very end, I want to talk about how the characters have realized what their plan was from the start. Earlier on in the film, Sam Jackson asks the question, what do these huge sharks even want? What is the plan? Why are they flooding this place, hunting us?
Those fences are titanium underneath, but on top, they're just plain steel. They've been hurting us, pushing us where they want, using us to flood the facility.
Oh my God.
That's the answer to the riddle, because that's what an 8,000-pound Mako thinks about. About freedom. About the deep blue sea.
Which as a kid blew my mind. I thought these sharks are brilliant. So the gang's got it together, they've got to kill this thing. And as it's escaping, they're realizing it's out of range. Susan sacrifices herself because, I mean, she kinda is the villain of this movie. She has genetically altered these sharks to make them what they are. And she ends up dying, surprisingly. If there was a second protagonist, it was her. But Carter Blake and LL Cool J, they end up destroying this shark and saving the day. They sit there at the end like, oh God, that was a mess. I can't believe we made it out alive. LL Cool J asks, are you sure there was just 3 sharks? And Carter Blake's like, yeah, I think so, but lifts his feet out of the water. And I love it. It's that tongue-in-cheek humor and that whole vibe of that last scene that kind of defines this movie for me. And they give an amen just before the song ends with LL Cool J's track for the film, Deepest Bluest, My Hat is Like a Shark's Fin. Check it out.
Are you sure it was just 3 sharks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's more like it. Here comes the next shift.
Let me tell you, man. I quit this job.
Oh, take me back to the ghetto.
Amen.
I love this movie. I don't know what to tell you about it. If you've seen it, you know exactly what this movie is. I don't know how it got panned by critics as much as it did. I guess they were just taking it more seriously back then. If you haven't seen Deep Blue Sea and you're a shark movie lover, this is number 2 next to Jaws. Some other things worth mentioning, the VFX in this film, I mean, they vary a lot. I mean, not only was it made in 1999, but it also had 14 different VFX houses working on this film. So it's all over the place. Sometimes the sharks look completely different from what they look like other times. This was Thomas Jane's breakout performance. He later went on to do Punisher and stuff, so I guess if you care about his filmography, this is the one to see. For me, the movie has an impressive score as well. Not only is it kind of doing what Jaws did, which is just a few notes in the opening, but they somehow make it feel completely different. It doesn't feel like it's ripping off Jaws at all. It has a more alien-like sound with its score. I think it works really well. It stuck with me. Also, being the 90s, there's like zero green screen, so the sets are practical, they look great. There's a high body count in this. Like, the movie has everything. I think the movie is an absolute blast. It only ever slows down maybe once or twice. And even then, the movie never lost my interest. I watched it heaps as a kid, so maybe I'm a little biased, but for me, Deep Blue Sea is gonna get an 8 out of 10. Solid as hell. If you're a shark movie lover, it's a must. For me, it's number 2 to Jaws. Just the animatronics alone look spectacular, and for a movie that came out in '99, it really set the bar for anyone else that wants to do animatronic sharks in a shark movie. So Deep Blue Sea, have you guys seen it? What did you think? Should I cover the sequels? I probably will, but I won't want to. Should I talk about the sequels? I haven't seen them. I've seen this first one hundreds of times, but I have not seen the sequel. If you haven't already, consider subscribing, hanging around. I talk about movies all the time. Consider liking the video. It helps me get this to more people like you guys. If you've made it through to the end of this video, you're a bloody legend, and hopefully I can catch you guys next time. Hi, you've made it to the bonus clip now. I know there's things all around, you might not even be able to see my face no more. But it's like, what's it, 35 degrees or something here. Convert that to whatever temperature it is in your country. And I got these hot ass lights on me, I'm sweating like hell. So, please subscribe. It took it out of me to sit there for an hour. Oh god.